Black voters say they're concerned about violent crime, while white liberals think it's a GOP conspiracy fueled by data deniers. This is crazy because when you can look at the statistics and see that crime is up across the board, and we all know this is because of the George Soros, attorney generals and governors and all this stuff that's happening in the states. They're letting criminals out on the street. We all know this, but the liberals don't want to admit this fact because it will hurt them in the midterms. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. When you hit that alarm bell, you can change it from personal to all. That way you get all the notifications and be aware when I put out stuff because I put out stuff sporadically. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here. And there's also a link to my Instagram where I put out even more news. So check that out as well. All right, let's talk about this news. Black voters are concerned about violent crime. Most Americans agree, with one notable exception: white liberals. You know how I feel about them. According to a recent Pew survey of registered voters, 82% of black Democrats said violent crime was a very important issue in the 2022 election, compared with just 33% of white Democrats. So, I mean, this is big. This is not even considering the conservative blacks or the Republican blacks. This is just black Democrats. They're overwhelmingly concerned about this. Overall, 61% of registered voters describe violent crime as a very important factor when deciding who to vote for in the upcoming midterm election. The groups least likely to agree with that assessment were Democratic voters, 49%, voters under 30, 44%, and voters with graduate degrees, 44%, and self-described liberals, 34%. Governor Kathy Hochul is a white liberal running in the state. President Joe Biden won by 23 points. Nevertheless, her Republican challenger, Rep. Lee Zeldin, um, is within striking distance thanks in part to his campaign focus on violent crime. Quote, Mr. Zeldin could win because independents are siding with Republicans on crime and inflation rather than with Democrats, whose concern over protecting democracy take precedence, former Clinton advisor Mark Penn wrote in the New York Times piece this week, and I talked about that earlier in another video. Um, the Democratic Party's increasingly radical approach to crime in recent years has already provoked a backlash from voters, or I'm going to call it a black lash, a play on from what what's that guy from CNN, Democratic strategist? I forgot his name. He called it a white lash. His name escapes me right now. Bald headed guy, but you know who I'm talking about. But even the liberal residents of San Francisco were outraged at District Attorney Chesa Bowden's attempt to create a quote fair justice system by refusing to punish criminals. I mean, why would you incentivize criminals if they know they're not going to get in trouble? They're going to be released back out on the streets. Of course, they're going to commit even more crimes because there's an incentive. There's nothing stopping them from doing this because they know they're going to be right back out on the street. And Bowden was recalled in June by a vote of 55% to 45%. The following month, voters in Deep Blue, Maryland voted to oust Baltimore State's Attorney General Marilyn Mosby, who adopted similar reforms even as murder rates soared. I mean, this is just ridiculous because security comes first. Is in psychology is called Maslow's hierarchy of need. There's you need food, you need shelter, and you need security. If you don't have any of those things, you can't really do anything in life. And these people don't in most of these big cities, and I live in one. They don't have that security. So of course they're gonna do stuff to protect their family. And the one thing we can do to protect our family is get these people that's in office out of office. Generally speaking, journalists and other Democrats have struggled to address or even acknowledge voter concerns about crime. They repeatedly attack Republican efforts to highlight crime in campaign ads as racist, as quote, racist dog whistles. They occasionally point to charts and graphs to explain that voters are wrong to be concerned. They have already started blaming voters for destroying democracy by prioritizing inflation and crime over the latest revelations from the January 6th committee. And what comes to mind to me is The View, the women on The View. They're totally dismissive of this fact. And they were like, "Oh, you're gonna vote for Republicans?" Yeah, because we care about our families. We don't care about any of these dumb social issues that you guys are trying to push. We care about security for our families. So yes, we're gonna vote Republican. Um, Hochul's response during an interview with Al Sharpton on MSNBC epitomized her party's flippant approach. Quote, there are master manipulators, she said, of Republicans. Quote, they have this conspiracy going across America trying to convince people in Democratic states that they're not as safe. Well, guess what? They're also not only election deniers, they're data deniers. What? We can look at the FBI statistics and know across the board that crime is up. You can't, but they're trying to play us. But that doesn't sound like a winning message because people knows what's going on. Like today, a rapper was killed here in Houston. Takeoff was killed here in Houston early this morning, and that's the news that's going around right now. And it's happening all over the country. It's happening all over the country when it comes to crime, senseless crime. And people are afraid. People are feared for their families, and they're gonna vote that way. And there's a reckoning coming in. The red wave is coming in. Democrats, they know this. They've been downplaying it for months now, but I think they're coming to the conclusion that come November 8th is going to be a reckoning. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out democrepublics.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.